In the early hours of July 3, 1992, a horrifying crime occurred in a remote mountain town under the administration of a city in Inner Mongolia. The incident happened around 2 a.m. when Quách Nguyên Triều and his wife were fast asleep. Suddenly, two loud gunshots broke the stillness of the night. However, at that time, the situation in Inner Mongolia was quite unique. Many areas had not yet banned gun usage. Farmers, herders, and even some local officials were often equipped with firearms. Yet, gunshots in the dead of night were unusual. At first, Quách Nguyên Triều thought it might just be an accidental discharge or a gun test like before. But within minutes, two more gunshots shattered the eerie silence. This time, he felt something was off. His instincts and experience quickly told him this was no coincidence. Quách Nguyên Triều got up, quickly dressed, grabbed a gun from his drawer, and rushed out of the house toward the direction of the sound. When he neared the home of Trương Ái Huy, just a few dozen meters away, where the gunshots had originated, he noticed the door was slightly ajar, and an eerie silence enveloped the place. Despite calling out repeatedly, no one answered. Sensing something terrible had happened, he boldly pushed open the gate and stepped inside. As soon as he entered, he was so horrified that he collapsed to the ground. Before him was a gruesome and blood-soaked scene. A family of 3 Trương Ái Huy, his wife and their young daughter, had been brutally murdered. The 3 victims lay amidst pools of blood, each with multiple fatal wounds. Overwhelmed with fear, Quách Nguyên Triều quickly called the city's police to report the incident. Who was the perpetrator of this crime? Why did they massacre the entire Trương Ái Huy family? What hidden conflicts might there have been between the perpetrator and the family? All will be revealed in this video. You are watching the case on the channel Kai on Den Toy. If you like how we narrate these cases, comment 1. If not, just like the video. Before diving into the main content, the Dark Cases of Asia sincerely thanks you for visiting. Please support us by subscribing to the channel to motivate us to continue bringing you more thrilling cases from around the world. And now, let's delve into the details of today's case. Right after receiving Quách Nguyên Triò's report, the City Public Security Bureau dispatched a large criminal investigation team to the scene to begin their investigation. There, they quickly took statements from the reporter, Quách Nguyên Triều. He stated that when he went outside to investigate the gunshots, he spotted a figure at the far end of the road. Sensing danger, he shouted at the figure to stop. However, before he could finish his sentence, the shadowy figure turned and fired a shot at Quách Nguyên Triều. Realizing he was facing an armed criminal, Quách Nguyên Triều immediately dropped to the ground and returned fire. The suspect, perhaps recognizing the danger, chose not to continue the confrontation and fled the scene. Around the same time, 3 neighborhood police officers, Lao Huang, Lao Xing, and Xiao Wang, also heard the gunshots and rushed to the scene. Quách Nguyên Triều directed them to pursue the suspect while he quickly went to check the situation at Trương Ái Huy's home. Quách Nguyên Triều further recounted that upon pushing open the gate to Trương Ái Huy's yard, he froze in terror as he saw the lifeless body of Phong Phong, Trương Ái Huy's only daughter, who had been murdered right in the yard. Regaining his composure, he entered the house and made another chilling discovery: the bodies of Trương Ái Huy and his wife in their bedroom. While gathering initial information from the reporter, the police received preliminary results from the autopsy. The results showed that Phong Phong, Trương Ái Huy's daughter, died wearing a tank top and shorts, with 3 fatal stab wounds on her body. Trương Ái Huy, wearing only shorts, was found collapsed near the doorway with 2 gunshot wounds, one of which pierced his heart and caused his death. His eyes were wide open with anger, showing no fear. The third victim, Trương Ái Huy's wife, was found under the bed about 3 meters away from Trương Ái Huy's body. The woman was also wearing a tank top and shorts but no bra. She had 2 gunshot wounds, the first in her abdomen and the second in the center of her forehead, which caused a large hole and was the primary cause of death. Upon inspecting the scene, the police discovered strange footprints and handprints on the courtyard wall of Trương Ái Huy's home, determined to belong to the intruder who climbed over it. Furthermore, the courtyard wall was only 1.5 meters high, making it easy for the perpetrator to scale. Additionally, a window in the Zhang family's bedroom had been pried open, bending the simple burglar-proof mesh. Shoe prints left on the windowsill suggested the intruder might have entered the house this way. At the crime scene, the police recovered 5 shell casings from a Type 64 pistol. Upon examination, they confirmed these were bullets from the pistol issued to Trương Ái Huy. It appeared that after seizing the gun, the perpetrator used it to kill the couple and even fired back at Quách Nguyên Triều when he was chasing the suspect after hearing the gunshots. According to Quách Nguyên Triều, Trương Ái Huy's Type 64 pistol held 6 bullets in total, meaning the perpetrator still had 1 unused bullet. Moreover, based on the positions of the bodies, the police deduced that the intruder broke into the house while Trương Ái Huy was sleeping. However, during the break-in, the intruder likely made a noise that woke Trương Ái Huy. He tried to reclaim the pistol but was shot twice and killed on the spot. The gunfire woke his wife and daughter. His wife, who had just jumped out of bed, was immediately spotted by the intruder and shot twice, killing her instantly. The daughter, Phong Phong, was sleeping in another room. Hearing the gunfire, she curiously came out to check, but she immediately encountered the intruder in the yard. To eliminate any witnesses, the intruder chased her outside and stabbed her to death with a knife. After committing the crime, the perpetrator calmly left the scene through the courtyard gate. As he was leaving, he encountered Quách Nguyên Triều a few dozen meters away. They exchanged 1 shot each before the suspect fled into the night. What puzzled investigators was the perpetrator's behavior. Clearly, this was a professional who excelled at skills like lockpicking, wall climbing, shooting, and using a knife. However, he left behind many traces at the scene, including fingerprints, palm prints, and footprints. This contradicted the usual modus operandi of a professional criminal. To resolve these questions, investigators decided to escalate the case to the provincial level, which drew significant attention. The provincial police department ordered the formation of a special task force to solve the case as quickly as possible. After the task force was established, their first mission was to determine the nature of the crime. Most officers believed this might be a revenge killing. The fact that the entire Trương Ái Huy family, including 3 members, was brutally murdered was unlike typical criminal cases. In theft, rape, or robbery cases, perpetrators rarely find it necessary to kill the entire family, especially a young girl like Phong Phong. Moreover, the brutality of the crime suggested deep-seated hatred. The fatal injuries on all 3 victims indicated this was not a random act but potentially driven by intense animosity. Moreover, Trương Ái Huy's house was located directly behind the police station, surrounded by many families of police officers. This was not an ideal location to commit a crime. However, the perpetrator still chose this place to act, indicating a willingness to take significant risks to carry out a massacre. Furthermore, Trương Ái Huy was a commander at the police station with years of experience and had handled numerous offenders. Therefore, it was possible that among those offenders, there were cruel and dangerous individuals ruthless enough to carry out a revenge killing of this scale. However, some officers offered a different perspective. They argued that this might not be a revenge case. Their reasoning was that the motive of revenge didn't entirely align with the context of the case. This small town was not a large city where complex conflicts often arose. For many years, no major crimes had been recorded in this area. They explained that Trương Ái Huy was an experienced officer who primarily handled minor cases like fights, thefts, or disputes among neighbors. Those who had been arrested by him typically served light sentences of 3 to 4 years. With such lenient punishments, it was unlikely for someone to return and brutally murder his entire family. Moreover, most former inmates were unwilling to return to prison. Among prisoners, there was a saying, "Better to be a beggar in society than a king in prison." After witnessing death row inmates face execution, most of them were terrified and avoided committing crimes that could lead to the death penalty. Of course, there were still a few ruthless and reckless individuals, but such cases were less likely in a small town like this. In addition, considering the severity of this family massacre, it was plausible that this was a case stemming from complex emotional conflicts, such as infidelity or illicit relationships. Emotional motives often led to impulsive actions beyond rational control. Therefore, it could not be ruled out that Zhang Aihui or a member of his family was involved in an irreconcilable emotional conflict, resulting in this tragic outcome. A few other officers suspected that this might be a burglary or rape case. The perpetrator, in a moment of impulse, killed all three individuals. They based this theory on the deteriorating security situation in Inner Mongolia during the 1990s, with serious crimes occurring frequently. Moreover, at the crime scene, the police discovered that some property was missing, and Zhang Aihui's wife and daughter were often noted for their attractive appearances, standing out in the small town. Hence, it could not be ruled out that someone in the area, driven by greed or lust, committed this crime. However, during the case analysis meeting, the police quickly dismissed the possibilities of burglary or rape. The simple reason was that there was no significant loss of property from Zhang Aihui's home. Although some small items were taken, there were no signs of the house being ransacked. Valuable items in the cabinets, including cash, remained untouched. This behavior did not align with that of a professional thief, as a professional would not overlook such items. As for the possibility of rape, the autopsy revealed that although both Zhang Aihui's wife and daughter were very beautiful and dressed in short shorts and tank tops that appeared quite alluring, there were no signs of sexual assault. Thus, after ruling out the theories of burglary and rape, the task force concentrated its efforts on investigating two main directions: personal revenge and emotional conflict. Very quickly, the police made their first breakthrough when investigating emotional connections. Quách Nguyên Triều wife revealed to the task force that she was a close friend of Zhang Aihui's wife and knew some secrets about the Zhang family. According to her, Zhang Aihui's wife had mentioned that over the past few months, her husband frequently visited a small eatery in the town and interacted a lot with the female owner. This woman had an alluring appearance and looked very attractive. This made Zhang Aihui's wife feel uneasy and suspect her husband of having an improper relationship. The cold demeanor that Zhang Aihui had recently displayed further strengthened her suspicions. To confirm her doubts, she secretly followed him. Through her observations, she saw that her husband only ate and drank at the eatery, with all interactions between him and the female owner happening openly, showing no signs of an illicit relationship. Still, she remained unsettled and confided this to Quách Nguyên Triều wife, asking her to keep an eye out. Upon receiving this information, the police immediately began investigating the husband and wife who owned the eatery mentioned by Quách Nguyên Triều wife. At the police station, the female owner adamantly denied having any improper relationship with Zhang Aihui. Through further investigation, the police also found no evidence suggesting any inappropriate connection between Zhang Aihui and the eatery owner. According to her, there was no private contact between them. She would merely flatter Zhang Aihui to seek his assistance. The female owner explained that she and her husband had only opened the eatery about a year ago. During this time, troublemakers in the town frequently harassed them. Some dined without paying, while others found excuses to extort money, crippling their business. Upon a friend's introduction, the couple got acquainted with Zhang Aihui, who was the chief officer at the town's police station. After hosting him for a few meals and treating him like a VIP whenever he visited, they managed to secure Zhang Aihui's support. Since then, Zhang Aihui frequently dined at the eatery, but he always paid for his meals. The female owner ensured he was served the best, from selecting premium ingredients to hiring the best chefs and preparing lavish dishes. His regular presence deterred troublemakers in the area. Her close relationship with Zhang Aihui stemmed entirely from her desire to have a protector for smoother business operations. Furthermore, her relationship with her husband was exceptionally strong, and the small eatery didn't generate enough income for her to risk her reputation for such a matter. The investigation confirmed that the female owner's husband had no possible involvement in the case. At the time of the murders, he was at a market hundreds of miles away from the town, buying sheep. He had been away from the town for over a week and was not present at the crime scene. Additionally, his personal records showed no criminal history. He was known for his gentle demeanor and exhibited no signs of being capable of committing such a brutal act as massacring an entire family. Fingerprint comparisons also entirely ruled out the couple as suspects. When the investigation into emotional motives yielded no results, the task force returned to the hypothesis of personal revenge. They reviewed individuals who had previously been dealt with by Trương Ái Huy in his work, approximately a few dozen people, but found no suspicious signs. Most of these individuals were petty offenders involved in minor fights or thefts and lacked the recklessness to carry out a family massacre. However, one case drew special attention. That of Yang Chuanbin, a man in his early 40s who resided in the town. According to neighbors, Duong Xianbin had a conflict lasting more than 10 years with the Zhao family, who were his neighbors. The origin of their dispute stemmed from the sale of several houses in the town during their father's generation. After many years, Duong Xianbin believed that his father had been deceived by the Zhao family, leading to significant losses. He had been persistently trying to reclaim this property. However, the Zhao family disagreed. They insisted that everything had been clearly outlined in a legally binding contract and that reclaiming the property years later was unreasonable. This prolonged conflict escalated over time. The two families had multiple altercations, and most of these incidents were mediated by Trương Ái Huy. However, his decisions did not satisfy Duong Xianbin. Based on the contract and legal regulations, Trương Ái Huy concluded that Duong Xuanbin's demands were unfounded and merely a source of trouble. This caused Duong Xianbin to feel discontent. The conflict reached its peak during a Lunar New Year celebration. After consuming alcohol, Duong Xianbin went to the Zhao family's home to cause trouble, but was insulted and driven away by the family members. In his anger, he approached Trương Ái Huy to demand justice. Instead of receiving support, Duong Xianbin was rebuked by Trương Ái Huy, who told him that everything had been resolved and that if he was dissatisfied, he could file a lawsuit in court. These words made Duong Xianbin feel humiliated. Drunk and increasingly enraged, he decided to set fire to the house the Zhao family had purchased. Initially, he only intended to intimidate the Zhao family, but due to strong winds that night, the flames quickly spread, burning down the entire house along with several government storage facilities nearby. Fortunately, the Zhao family managed to escape in time, and no one was injured. However, Duong Xuanbin's actions constituted the crime of intentional property destruction, especially as it involved public property, leading to severe losses. After setting fire to the Zhao family's home and government property, Duong Xianbin was arrested and faced a prison sentence of at least 10 to 15 years. However, on the night of the incident, Duong Xianbin had fled the town and has never been caught since. However, the biggest issue was that there were no traces at the scene connecting Duong Xianbin to the case, including fingerprints. This made the investigation difficult, and the task force could not clarify the truth based solely on the existing evidence. Therefore, the task force had to issue a nationwide search notice for Duong Xianbin, hoping to quickly apprehend him to continue the investigation and clarify the case. 3 days after the incident, a famous criminal expert assigned by the Ministry of Public Security arrived at the scene to assist with the investigation. Upon approaching the case, he quickly pointed out an anomaly that no one had noticed before. According to him, this might not be a revenge case as initially speculated, but rather a case of mobile weapon theft. According to the expert, the perpetrator might have simply entered the house to steal property. However, during the theft, he discovered that Trương Ái Huy owned a gun, and the target of the theft then shifted to stealing the weapon. However, while in the process of stealing, Trương Ái Huy suddenly woke up and struggled with the thief to retrieve the gun. As a person with a criminal record, the thief knew that if he were caught, he would face a very severe punishment. Seeing that Trương Ái Huy was tall and had the potential to win in the struggle, the thief had no choice but to pull out the gun and kill Trương Ái Huy. The noise from the scuffle awakened Trương Ái Hui's wife and daughter. To avoid leaving any traces and being discovered, the thief killed both of them to cover up the clues and prevent being captured. Moreover, after firing 4 shots, he did not search or steal much property in the house but quickly left the scene. The actions of leaving many traces, including fingerprints and footprints, indicated that the perpetrator was not familiar with the victim's family. This led the expert to conclude that the culprit might be a transient individual from another area. Not stopping there, the expert also affirmed that the likelihood of capturing the culprit in this case was quite high. He argued that the town had a special characteristic, About 70% of the population lived in the town, while the rural area had only about 300 to 400 residents. The area was vast, but sparsely populated, which meant that an ordinary person could only travel a maximum of 25 kilometers per day. This meant that if the perpetrator wanted to reach a city more than 100 kilometers away, he would need several days. Furthermore, since this area had very few people living in it, the perpetrator would face many difficulties while fleeing, as he would not be able to find food or shelter. Therefore, the only way for the perpetrator to leave the town was by taking a long-distance bus. However, there were only 2 bus services operating each week, on Thursdays and Sundays. Since the incident occurred on a Monday and today was Wednesday, it meant that the perpetrator had not yet been able to take a bus to escape. Based on these analyses, the expert suggested that the bus services be closely monitored for the next few days to prevent the perpetrator from fleeing. Meanwhile, checking the list of people from outside the town present there would also help quickly identify the suspect, as the population of the town was small and very few outsiders came to the area. Although the task force initially had some doubts about the expert's theory, they still decided to implement the measures he suggested. The police immediately sealed off the bus station and began checking all suspicious individuals in the town. Meanwhile, the search for Duong Xianbin continued relentlessly. By Thursday, after checking at the bus station, the police did not get any significant results. Although the forces carefully examined strangers and their luggage, particularly searching for firearms and ammunition, no findings were related to the case. Meanwhile, information about Duong Xianbin in the northeast region brought new developments. The police in a city in the northeast reported that Duong Xianbin had been arrested a month earlier for street robbery. When arrested, he had used the alias Lu Gongbing to conceal his identity. After receiving information from the task force, the Northeast Police confirmed Duong Xianbin's identity through photographic evidence and fingerprints. They confirmed that Duong Xianbin was indeed being detained in a detention center in the Northeast and could not have been in the town at the time of the incident. After eliminating Duong Xianbin from the list of suspects, the task force continued to implement measures based on the experts' instructions and made an important discovery during a recheck in the town. During this re-examination, the police discovered an anomaly at the home of a resident named Duo Lao Han. In the first check, upon entering the house, they saw a young man sleeping on the bed. When asked, Duo Lao Han stated that the young man was his son, who had just returned from the city to visit. He explained that his wife had passed away long ago, and the son, over 30 years old, worked as an official in the city. Duo Lao Han's behavior at the time did not seem suspicious, so the police did not pay much attention. However, this time they found that the young man was still sleeping in the middle of the day. This struck the police as unusual because a man over 30 years old, being an official, why would he sleep the entire day like that? Using the excuse of checking the house, the police observed more closely and found that the young man appeared to be only in his early 20s, completely not matching the description given by Duo Lao Han. After returning to the station, the police immediately reported the situation to the task force. Given the anomaly at Duo Lao Han's house, the task force decided to implement close surveillance of the house. That afternoon, when Duo Lao Han went out to buy alcohol and food, 2 undercover officers secretly brought him back to the station for questioning. When the task force showed a photo of the son that Duo Lao Han had reported and questioned the true identity of the young man in the house, Duo Lao Han was forced to admit the truth. The young man was not his son but his nephew, named Duo Baozhan, the son of his younger brother. Duo Lao Han confessed that Duo Baozhan had been involved in many bad habits since childhood. By the time he was over 20, he had been imprisoned twice. This time, Duo Baozhan returned in a state of extreme panic and fear, and he sought refuge at his uncle's house. Although suspecting that his nephew had committed a crime and was on the run, Duo Lao Han, due to his affection for his younger brother, agreed to let his nephew stay and lied to the police about their relationship. According to Duo Lao Han's statement, Duo Baozhan often slept during the day and only went out at night, carrying a bag, though he was unsure of what his nephew was doing. Notably, a few days before, right after the murder at Trương Ái Hui's house occurred, Duo Baozhan suddenly announced he would leave the town. However, although he took his luggage to the bus station, Duo Baozhan later returned, saying he would leave in a few days. Based on the information gathered, the task force determined that Duo Baojian was a high-likelihood suspect in the case. To ensure safety during the arrest, as there was suspicion that Duo Baojian might be armed, a special criminal team was dispatched to carry out the task. After everything was arranged, the police immediately surrounded Duo Lao Han's house and used the key provided by him to open the door. When they burst into the bedroom of Duo Bao Dan, he was fast asleep but quickly woke up upon hearing footsteps. In a state of panic, Duo Bao Dan hurriedly reached under his pillow to grab his gun. However, the police quickly closed in, subdued him, and arrested him on the spot, not giving him a chance to react. After inspecting him, the police discovered that the .64 caliber handgun Duo Bao Dan was carrying had only one bullet in it. This meant that even if he had shot a police officer, he would not have been able to escape. After being arrested, Duo Bao Dan did not resist and quickly confessed to his crimes. He was a wanted criminal with a history of numerous offenses. After serving his second prison sentence for theft, Duo Bao Dan returned to his hometown in Heilongjiang province. However, not long after, he resumed committing a series of daring robberies. Notably, in a robbery in May, he attacked a victim with a knife, causing severe injuries, which led the local police to intensify their search for him. Realizing that he was unlikely to escape a death sentence or at least a life sentence, Duo Bao Dan decided to flee. He left his hometown and became a drifter. By the end of June, he sought refuge at his uncle's house, Duo Lao Han, in a remote town. However, Duo Bao Dan's criminal nature did not change. Throughout his time on the run, he continued to carry tools for committing crimes, such as crowbars and sharp knives, and wandered at night searching for theft targets. However, in this town, most families were poor, and after 3 days of wandering, Duo Bao Dan was unable to find a suitable target. It wasn't until the early morning of July 3rd that he noticed the house of Trương Ái Huy, which appeared affluent, and he decided to plan an attack, not knowing that the house he was breaking into belonged to a police officer. He was also unaware that many families on this street were connected to the police force. As a professional thief, Duo Bao Dan quickly scaled the wall into the yard of Trương Ái Hui's house and used a crowbar to pry open the window to sneak inside. During the break-in, he stole some items from the table, leaving fingerprints and footprints at the scene. While searching for more valuables, he discovered a pair of men's trousers placed on a chair next to the bed. Attached to the waistband of the trousers was a gun holster. Realizing that the homeowner might be an official in the police force, the judiciary, or the prosecutor's office, Duo Bao Dan's first reaction was to leave immediately. By this time, it was early morning, and Trương Ái Huy and his wife were sound asleep, completely unaware of the intruder. However, after a few minutes of hesitation, Duo Bao Dan decided to steal the gun to carry out larger crimes. He figured that if he was caught now, he would likely face the death penalty. Therefore, stealing a gun for future crimes seemed like a good investment, as he had nothing left to lose. Moreover, the gun had significant value if sold on the black market. In the event that he had to flee or could no longer survive, selling the gun could provide him with the means to live. Having made up his mind, Duo Bao Dan moved to the chair and took the .64 caliber handgun out of its holster. Due to his experience with firearms from a young age, when his father, a soldier, let him play with unloaded guns and occasionally allowed him to fire live ammunition, Duo Bao Dan was very confident in using firearms. In his excitement after obtaining the gun, Duo Bao Dan carelessly dropped it on the ground. The sound of the gun hitting the floor was loud enough to wake Trương Ái Huy. As a local police commander, Trương Ái Huy immediately jumped up, wearing only his shorts, and rushed towards the intruder to subdue him. At that moment, Duo Bao Dan had reached the door. The distance between the two was only about 2 or 3 meters. Duo Bao Dan, about 1.6 meters tall, feared that he couldn't overpower the taller man in front of him, and didn't want to be caught and face the death penalty. In an instant, he decided to pull out the gun and shoot at Trương Ái Huy. The shot struck Trương Ái Huy, killing him instantly. Hearing the noise, Trương Ái Hui's wife immediately jumped out of bed and shouted, asking what was going on. Fearing that she would cry out for help and draw attention, Duo Bao Dan quickly aimed the gun and shot her. However, this shot only wounded her, and she didn't die immediately. She continued to struggle on the floor. Seeing this, Duo Don approached, pulled out the gun again, and fired a fatal shot, killing her on the spot. When Duo Don was about to leave, he unexpectedly encountered Zhuang Aihui's daughter in the front yard. The young girl had run outside to check on the situation. In that split second, Duo Don decided not to leave any witnesses. Since the gun only had 2 bullets left, he didn't want to waste them. He then pulled out a knife and proceeded to kill her, causing her to scream in pain before dying immediately. After murdering the entire Zhuang Aihui family, Duo Don fled through the front door. As he ran to the end of the street, he was spotted by Quách Nguyên Triều, who was in a state of panic. Duo Don quickly fired a shot in retaliation and fled. He wanted to escape the area quickly, but with the town surrounded by forests and sparse grasslands, and with few residents within a radius of hundreds of kilometers, he had to rely on transportation to get away. Carrying the gun, he went to the bus station to catch a long-distance coach. However, when he saw the police strictly inspecting each passenger and thoroughly searching luggage, he was too frightened to board the bus and quickly returned to his uncle's house to hide. Initially, Duo Don planned to wait until the situation calmed down and then escape, but he did not expect the police to quickly implement investigation measures and set up blockades, capturing him soon after. The case was finally closed. Realizing that Duo Don was an extremely dangerous criminal, the court sentenced him to death and carried out an immediate execution. Given the heinous crimes he committed, the death sentence was entirely justified. However, no matter how many times he died and came back, it could never restore the lives of the innocent people who perished at his hands. A once happy family was now reduced to 3 small patches of grass on their graves. What wrong did they ever do? For Zhuang Aihui, it seemed that he had devoted his entire life to serving the people, always giving his best without a single day of rest. And his daughter, Fang, was a young and beautiful girl, at the prime of her life. She should have been free to live her life, to love, to dream, and to pursue her ambitions. But after all this, all that awaited them was a cold reunion in the underworld. Clearly, Duo Don was aware of the pain of death. He had always been terrified whenever facing the police, which was why he had been on the run for so many years, avoiding the death penalty. He knew how to cherish his own life, yet he treated the lives of others as disposable. It seems that fate was too generous, giving him a simple mind and a lazy personality, someone who wanted to eat without working, constantly thinking about stealing and living off the sweat and tears of others. For criminals like Duo Don, we should have eliminated them while they were still in their infancy, not allowed them to grow into the human form they are today. From today's case, each of us should learn an important lesson. Always uphold the law. The bad things we do can be hidden today, they can be hidden tomorrow, but they will not be hidden forever. Sooner or later, we will fall into the hands of the brilliant police officers. Moreover, through the reflective example of Duo Don, we also learn more deeply the importance of striving and working hard, consistently making efforts to achieve the results we desire. We are not born just to have enough to eat and wear, but to live a meaningful life, a life that earns respect and admiration from others, not to live like grass or filth like the scoundrel Duo Don. What do you think about the verdict today? Please leave your thoughts in the comments below, so we can discuss it further. Thank you for watching today's video, and before you leave, don't forget to support the dark cases of Asia by liking the video and subscribing to the channel to see more intriguing cases. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos.